Hey everybody, it's Today in Trades with Jim Evans. I hope you got a lot out of our last episode, the trap of time and materials, how to present better bids that will help you win better jobs and have a better experience for customers. If you haven't checked it out, go back, take a look, and a listen. This week, we have an amazing surprise. We have a guest on our show that I've been trying to connect with to have on the show for about 6 months, and we made it happen. Her name is Kay Liston. She's the wife of Mark Liston, for some of you listeners that know him well. She is an icon in the home services industry. As president of Five Star Painting, she was the president of Maid. She was the VP at Mr. Appliance. She knows it all. She has worked with some of the best in our industry. Starting at 25 in a TV station, she takes us through her journey all the way to the president of one of the biggest franchise concepts out there. You're going to learn a lot about creating a great culture, a lot about empowering women in the workplace. This is just a jam-packed episode with an amazing interview. Without any more delay, let's go to Kay Liston. All right, everybody, we are so excited today. We have one of my favorite people in the whole world. And you know I don't say that on this podcast, especially unless I mean it. Kay Liston. Kay and Mark have been in my life now for, I think, over 15 years. As franchise presidents, I dealt closely with Mark when we were part of the Glass Doctor franchise. And through Mark, we got a sneak peek into the better half of the relationship. Kay, his words, not mine, his words. And Kay was the president of other concepts as well. And I'm going to let her talk about her career. But between the two of them, we have learned so much about customer service, leadership, connection, care, and I can go on, and I speak for most of our listener base. What an exciting morning that we get to spend here with Kay. So Kay, I just want to start with the long elevator ride of, tell us about your journey starting as a young professional to becoming a president of a massive franchise.
Sure. Well, first off, thank you, Jimmy. I really appreciate the opportunity. Mentorship, you're going to hear, is the hallmark of my career. And so I'm delighted to be able to offer some mentorship tips to your listeners. My career started right out of college, and I got a job at a TV station in Sacramento, California. It was very humbling because it was a part-time, temporary, minimum wage job. And they replaced me when I got promoted to a full-time job with somebody from Goodwill. So it wasn't a real high-skill job, but it was the foot in the door. And that took me into a nice long career, 25-year career in television. I think the mentorship that I mentioned was so key in my beginning. I got my first opportunity to be a leader at that TV station at age 26. And after that, I had 9 different positions there in the next 11 years. The key was a general manager, a boss, who believed in me, honestly, more than I believed in myself. And he kept challenging me with the next opportunity and the next opportunity and the next opportunity. And boy, I tell you what, I cherish the notes that I have from him, the handwritten notes, the Atta Girls. To this day, I go back and look at those, and I realize how truly important that was in me gaining confidence to grow my career. I ended my career in television after 25 years in Los Angeles. I was running Comcast ad sales Los Angeles at the time. I had 5 sales offices and 100 sales reps, and it was a great job, but I was done with television. And that's how I landed in franchising. Valpak, which was owned by Cox Communications at the time, gave me an opportunity to run Valpak LA. And even though it was a company-owned store, it was run as if it were a franchise. And I learned very quickly there how to become close friends, colleagues with all of the franchise owners in the Valpak network. And that's when I first started to understand what it's like to be a franchise owner and the burning in the belly that one possesses in order to run a successful business. Valpak moved me to Florida in a corporate role, and from there migrated over to Neighborly, where I started out as a vice president of operations for Mr. Appliance, became the president of Five Star Painting when we acquired that, And then most recently, I retired as president of Maid, where we moved to Ann Arbor, Michigan, in order from Waco, Texas, in order to pursue that opportunity. So I think the keys were be flexible, be ready to move wherever the opportunity was, and to seek mentors. And I did that throughout my career, seeking people who would help me understand that, yes, you can do it, when it just wasn't natural for me um, to understand that.
So needless to say, you weren't perfectly prepared at each journey. You didn't
Right.
go in ready to take the job. It sounds like the jobs found you, and through that humility, which I appreciate, you seeked out mentors to help you turn fear into what we call competence, right, and
Mhm.
growth. And so that's awesome. Man, did you ever think starting out in a TV station career you would end in Molly Maid?
No, I didn't see the path. It doesn't mean that it wasn't there all along, but I certainly didn't see it at that point. And I tell you what, television was a great launching pad, but eventually I lost my faith in television. I'll just be honest. It
Yeah,
was very difficult to continue to work in that industry when things were getting crazy with media. So I'm so thankful that I discovered franchising, which used a completely different part of my brain. I was
very
happy
good.
for that.
Well, that actually is a great segue into kind of a curveball. I want to help find some of the core common takeaways for our listeners, which are primarily home services. But let's talk a little bit about the differences between, I'm sure, managing, 100 sales team members. I mean, you had to manage big groups of motivated people that are trying to communicate, sell. Let's talk about leadership and service sales in the two different industries. What carries over and unanimous across anything you're in, and then what is kind of real specific difference between your transition from advertising in that role over to home services and further franchising?
I think that my leadership style has been consistency and appreciating people. Just lost the word. Well, let me give you an example. When I first got a job in Valpak, the general manager that I replaced used to hold team meetings whenever. And if she set a meeting for 8 o'clock, if she wandered in at 8:15, then maybe they'd get started at 8:30. That doesn't work for me. So I instituted a system whereby if I say we're going to go from 8 to 9, we go from 8 to 9. And if you're late to my 8 o'clock meeting, you pay $1 into the party kitty. And if I go long on my 8 to 9 meeting, then I put money per minute in the party kitty. So that very quickly changed the whole attitude in the organization to, oh, we're going to respect each other's time and be mindful of that. And I think that pretty much describes my style. I love to put up bumpers and say to my sales managers or the people who work directly, other people who work directly for me, you can do whatever you need to do to take care of our customers as long as it's within these bumpers. Just don't go outside the bumpers. And I found that franchise owners also appreciate that, knowing that there aren't going to be special favors. There aren't going to be, because I like you better. There's none of that. It's here's how our organization is run. And I'm delighted to work with you within these bumpers.
That's amazing. And we talk a lot about that, standing meetings, technician team meetings, just being
Mhm.
consistent, being intentional. And that also creates a level of comfort and surprisingly retention. And so I really
Yep.
appreciate that. I love the party kitty pod. I hope the listeners, I hope you all can take that back to your organization. What a great idea. And we all most of us want to take care of our team anyway. So what a great way to give them that opportunity to share. As someone who goes over all the time, I think I would lose most of my money at meetings. So maybe I'll implement this right away.
There you go. It's a good discipline for you too. I mean, leaders need to respect their team members' time as well.
Awesome. And how scalable too, between one employee to 100. That's a great
Mhm.
concept. Very good. That's awesome.
So the biggest difference that I saw between working in television and working in franchising is in television, you're working directly with employees and working with managers and then through them to their employees, which is all fine. It's people who are there to earn a paycheck and to provide a service, certainly. But when you get into franchising, Then you're dealing with owners who have put their whole body and soul and all of their financial resources into this endeavor. And so the stakes, honestly, are much higher, I think, in franchising. Whether I'm coaching my team, my support team, on how to talk with, how to coach franchise owners, how to be respectful of them and still challenge them to do the things they need to do if they're not doing it. But you have to come at it from a completely different angle.
Right. Right. No, that's really good feedback. And I think that it's important, and even among our listeners, it's important that, it's not going to be the same in every single industry. You have different challenges from painting over to glass, my background to cleaning and my, you have different challenges, but hearing what you're saying, have a foundation of consistency
Mhm.
that's true no matter which concept you own. And if you own multiple, even better, keep that foundation, but then find that nuance to make sure we're communicating in a way that connects with our people, and at their level. Sometimes I think we're trying to be leaders, maybe sometimes a little bit try to provide things. Just be there, be with people, speak to them at the way they want to be heard and loved. So I've always
Exactly.
appreciated that. Mhm.
And understand what their particular needs are.
Yeah.
Don't just lay out a menu of here's the system and here's what you need to do. I mean, certainly
Mhm.
that's important for the bedrock, but when you're coaching an owner, let's talk about what your needs are today. How can I help you today?
Right.
And I think that's really important.
Actionable on the ground. Yeah, I really like that.
Absolutely.
And I've always felt that with you and Mark, and you guys certainly could run circles around me with strategy and things. You always do a good job of bringing it back to what can help me move forward. And I think that we need to take that to our team. So awesome. Okay, we're gonna get into my favorite part of this. So, all right, Mary Kay, as a business owner, as someone who's worked in the home services industry my whole life, I have been surrounded by male testosterone. Our industry is just littered with guys, and in a lot of cases we have some really strong women that will manage, run our desks off sometimes in the field with us, but we really have been at a disservice, of not having blended companies. And here, fast forward 25 years, I'm now a father of two girls who are in the garage with my tools just the other day helping me, interested even at 4 and 1. They know how much I love this industry and they're falling in love with it too. But I can't help but be honest about the fact that they don't have a ton of role models, and you're one of my favorite role models, for them. And I hope for everyone listening to this podcast who is a young growing female professional, let's talk about what that was like for you, what advice you're going to give my daughters and help them. And then let's talk about just some of the things you've overcome so that those of us on this call that maybe have intentionally or unintentionally created the culture of just bro culture or male culture, how do we learn from you so that we can see more Mary Kays come up out of organizations?
Sure. Well, when I first started in business, it was in the mid 70s, and women were still trying to break through glass ceilings. And when I became production manager at the NBC affiliate in Sacramento, I was the first female production manager in the country. So I think that trying to be gender blind when it came to doing the job, just be confident and do the job that needs to be done. I think too, what is really helpful is I was reared a military brat,
Mhm.
and my father was my role model, the commander. And he taught me the value of having a strong executive officer. So when I got into leadership roles, I found that that was probably the most important role on my team. And I usually got someone who was more knowledgeable about the particular industry that I was in, because clearly I didn't know how to paint when I became the president of Five Star Painting. So I made sure that my number two was someone who came from that industry. Likewise with Molly Maid, my number two was someone who was a small business owner, which I had not been. I'd been a franchisee years and years and years ago, but he was dealing with the things that are happening now. And so I filled my gaps with the people who are way smarter than me and made sure that my team was buttressed with all the skills that I was lacking. And I found that I was great at orchestrating, but not necessarily coming up with all the answers. And by the way, I want to go back to something that that you made reference to, that all these great ideas that Mark and I provided you, trust me, we did not come up with those on our own over the dinner table. Those came from talking to other business owners who maybe had found a solution or were successful in an area that another business owner might be struggling in. And we were delighted to share that information. So in a franchise network, the shared knowledge of the group is truly one of the strengths of a franchise organization. And it's up to the home office to make sure that those great ideas, that knowledge is shared throughout the network.
Wow, that's some powerful stuff. And certainly the world has changed since the 70s. And as a dad, I just want my daughters to be the greatest humans they can be. And they can fill in the cracks. I think it's important not to let the pendulums swing. And when it comes to home services, we also want to create an environment around our home. And I think this is important for our listeners in among your shop. Create an environment where it doesn't matter. If you do your
Mhm.
job and you follow our system and you care for people the way we want to care, welcome aboard. The rest of it is extra, in the sense of this is transferable no matter what gender, no matter what race, no matter
Right.
what background, no matter where you came from. That we really have to look at who's going to do the work, the selfless work that it takes to be great in the service industry. So I really appreciate you bringing that home.
Yes. I will, however, make one note that when we were in Waco, Texas, I used to be a guest lecturer at a marketing class. And these were all salespeople who were going out. And my purpose of going there was to advise young women on how to dress
Mm,
when they get into the workplace.
mhm.
And I was able to say things that the instructor wasn't,
Sure.
about how they dress and what they reveal and how they comport themselves. And so I think anytime we can coach young women to behave in a professional manner and to dress in a professional manner, and you're not in the workplace to date, you're in the workplace to do a professional job.
Mm.
So I think if you help young women keep that in mind, and even some older women who haven't gotten it yet, I think it's going to help with their credibility. It's going to help let the men with whom they work focus on the things that are important instead of distractions.
Well, and I think it's funny on the counter side of that. Now that I have two daughters, I'm like, oh man, what kind of partners will they have, and et
Mhm.
cetera. And I think on the men's side, or in between, we need to dress how we want to be perceived and how we want to show what our values are. And I think that it's an ongoing thing. If I'm going up to home, I hate polo shirts. I'd prefer to always to wear a button up or a t-shirt, but I know that our industry wears them a lot. And sometimes if I'm going in,
Yeah,
I have to make sure that if I walk into a home or I walk into a meeting, that people feel
yeah,
comfortable
exactly.
with me and that I feel comfortable with who I am as well. And so I think that's a really great topic. And I think sometimes we think about only how it makes us feel and not always how it might make others feel. And so I think that's really applicable, really cool idea and
Right.
concept.
Especially home services. If you're a technician and you're going into a home or a service professional of any kind, you want to establish rapport
Mhm,
with the homeowner immediately. And what do they say? The first 2 seconds you make your first impression.
mhm,
So the key to starting establishing rapport is be on time,
mhm. Yeah, of
look
course.
the part, and be confident and do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. Sadly, in home services, that doesn't always happen.
Right.
So if you can do
Absolutely.
those things, you win.
Absolutely. And as we know, this podcast is powered by Big Clips, and one thing we've learned through our journey on the software side is there are tools also to keep in touch. If you're not touching your customer with communication before they reach out to you, that's the key. My dad used to always say, and Mark, etc. If you are going to have a mix up in your schedule, you'd let them know before they ever have to call you. And there are tools that can help you automate that. So just there's no more excuse as to
Yeah.
why we can't be on time, do what we say we're going to do, and then make sure it's constantly being said to them. So
Yeah.
very good. Well, I'm excited for one day as my girls get older than 4 and 1 to listen to you in this podcast. And that's what's important to me. And it doesn't matter. I want them to have the option. I think we need to make sure we have shops where male, female, or in between, anyone on any spectrum can walk in and feel loved, cared for, a bedrock of values. One thing I
Mhm.
loved about Neighborly was their code of values. That's my
Oh, yeah.
favorite part of that organization. You two both embody that. And I think if we do those things, you're not going to, the joke I've been telling everyone is there are great employees out there You don't. I don't want to hear anymore. I can't find good technicians. This is just our time to level up and create a culture that brings people in, schedule training that will captivate people, and then schedules like 4 10s or 3 day weekends that'll
Right.
get technicians in the door. So more than ever, I think we have to cap into every human on the planet, not just males, and we also have to create a culture. So I appreciate that you two have done that. I've always felt
Mhm.
like, man, if you open Mary Kay's LLC tomorrow, it's like that's a place I'd want to work, and that's you carry that who you are, not necessarily what you do. And so that's fantastic. Let's talk about another topic. This is today in trades. So it's
Mhm.
what's happening right now, and what tools, what topics can we do to move forward. I just touched a little bit on hiring, but I want to ask you, how is the home services industry changing? I mean, you were at
Ah,
5 Star, you were at Molly Maid. You've seen probably more change, correct me if I'm wrong, in the last like 6 7 years. And
yeah.
historically, the service industry has been very old fashioned. We don't like to change, but I feel like it's knocking on the door. I could be wrong. I want you to talk to this a little bit about what's going on.
No, the biggest thing that's changed is the consumer, not how you fix plumbing or how you fix HVAC. Although appliances, yeah, it's a lot of computers now, but the thing that's changed the most is the consumer and their expectations. So your competition is no longer just the other plumber or the other painting company. It's Amazon. It's who's going to deliver, who's going to communicate with me. As you said, communication is so vital, and who's going to do it quickly, and who's going to stop me from shopping. That's the thing. When homeowners are looking for someone to fix something that's broken in their home or to clean their home or whatever, if they don't get somebody on the phone to set an appointment right now, they're just going to continue shopping. So any of the tools, technology that you can use or systems to get people to stop shopping right now is what's going to serve you best. Voicemails, no. Voicemails do not work. That is so 80s. So don't even think about it. You need to have a live voice answering your phone and giving the consumer the answer that they need to hear right now. The other thing that's changed in home services that I just love is it used to be do it yourself was a big thing. These new homeowners coming in are do it for me. Do it for me. I don't have the skills. I don't have the time. I've got the money. So I'm going to pay you to do it for me. So I don't think there's ever been a better time to be in home services than there is right now.
That's amazing. I think that's so cool that you touched on that. And not only a live voice, a lot of customers like my wife and I in our age group, we also want to have a good online experience. We want to be able to know what you're about. We want to know your code of values, and
Mm-hmm.
don't always rely on your estimator or the owner or your great technician to do that, because people are human. But make sure that we're investing in marketing. Present yourself. And if you can't talk about yourself because maybe you're humble, and you don't like to, hire a marketing company to tell your story. Yellow Dog Creative was on, they're fantastic. There are many out there that can help tell your story. Those of you in a franchise association or in a franchise, lean into the marketing materials that are there. And if they're not there, knock on the door and say, this is what we need. We have to be able to tell our story, because the other side that I like what you just said, customers are like, do it for me.
Mm-hmm.
From my experience, what we've learned is they're do it for me, but also tell me what you're doing, tell me what you did, and tell me how much it is. It's like, do it for me, but keep me in the know. And they're smart, because they grew out of a do-it-yourself attempt in a lot of cases. And so you
Yeah.
can't just be like, I got it handled. That's not quite good enough, especially if you're charging what you should charge for great service. Tell them the service and what the difference is. And so that is fantastic. I love that concept. I also just, nothing irks me more than not answering your phone. Whether it's
Mm.
service station or a call center, make sure somebody that answers their phone, they can answer a few basic questions. So
Right.
very good. How do you see your leaders, some of your franchisees, what are some things they're doing to keep up with this change? Let's go into that a little bit with a little more in depth. What are some things that you're seeing maybe the more progressive franchisees doing to really capture this opportunity? And what are the ones maybe you're worried about that are going to miss it if they're not careful?
Well, certainly embracing new technology is key. If you're not texting with your customers, if that's what they want, if you're not chatting online, if you're not taking care of communicating with them the way they want to be communicated, then you're going to miss the bar. I have heard old school franchise owners say, "No, this is the way I do it, and that's the way I've always done it, and that's just how it is." Well, you're going to get left at the blocks. So certainly stay in touch with how do customers want to be communicated. I think it's also important to join community groups like um, I just lost the name of it. The leads
Master,
groups,
yeah, or masterminds groups, right? Or
right?
local
Mastermind group
community.
or leads group or shucks, even Rotary. Something in your community so that you can stay connected with other business leaders and stay on the pulse of what's happening in your particular community. Because every community, you'll hear franchise owners say, "My territory is different," but there are nuances to different communities. So stay in touch with other business owners, however it's comfortable for you to do. Don't try to do it all in a bubble. You find that if you share leads, if you share knowledge about the market with one another, then the whole river rises.
That's amazing. And inside of BidClips, some of our users that are sending their service requests and sold jobs over to the tile guy will send it over to the glass shop. There are not only technologies, but also inside of Neighborly, for example,
Oh
you
yeah.
have other concepts that are ready to work together. And usually when someone's doing work on the home, it's not just one little thing. It's one little thing will turn into, let's just do the whole remodel. Maybe we do this, maybe we do that. When you get into the mode of fixing up your home, me as a homeowner, I know this, there's a lot of opportunity. And why go chase a bunch more when you can work together to go deeper with a customer instead of wider?
That's right. And a lot of times the customer is really the woman of the house,
Mhm.
and women love to share their people.
Yeah, you do.
So I got a guy who can help you with that. Let me get you his contact information. They love that.
And if you make it as easy as, hey, here's a link, just start here, even
Yep.
better. And so awesome. I love that. Now let's talk to the clients. We hear all sorts of things, but today in trades, we hear can't find good people. We just addressed that earlier. Consistency, leadership, and a culture. You will find people. And guess what? You see someone that gives you great customer service. You know how many baristas, waitresses, movie theater attendants that I've given my business card and said, if you want to change a career, come over here. I love how you handled me. There are people that are great out there, and don't be afraid to recruit because
Yep.
that's how you find good people. But secondly, let's talk about on the business side. You've been a president, you've taught business owners how to be great. We also hear a lot of customers are like, oh, I'm just so busy. And then I'll ask them, I say, well, are you saving up for a tough economy? Are you pricing correctly? How is your business? How are your numbers? And the amount of just lack of knowing and fear really frightens me because it's not always going to be great like it is now. What do you say to customers on how they can make sure they're handling customers with authenticity, care, but how do we best prepare ourselves as home service providers right now for the future?
Staying in touch with your customers is really key. I know some of the really successful franchise owners that I've worked with have set up email lists and Facebook groups for their customers. So staying in touch with your customers so they don't forget you. At Neighborly, we call it putting a fence around your customers. And they're not gonna, even if you did the very best job of fixing a plumbing problem they had, in a year or two, they're not going to remember that it was Mr. Reuter. They're going to go, now what was that company? And now you can't just go to the yellow pages and scroll down. Now you have to go, gosh, who was it? Now it's going to be whatever's top of mind. So don't expect that they're going to remember you. Keep reminding them who you
Mm.
are. And I think that that's really going to serve company owners well, however they choose to do it. Thank you gifts are always nice too. But again,
Yeah,
they're not going to remember who you were if they
right,
run into another problem a year or two from now. So stay top of mind. Top of mind
right.
awareness is huge locally. Now, a franchise can provide you with marketing materials, with the website, as you mentioned. But what's going to keep you top of mind in the market is talking to them the way that their market works. There are some markets where Valpak, we used to work at Valpak, and there are markets where Valpak is still relevant. And what we used to say is that if you're in Valpak every week, so whatever it is you're doing, be consistent,
Mhm.
because when they have a need for your service, they're going to go right to where they've seen you before. And if you're not there, they're going to think, oh my gosh, are they gone?
Right.
Aren't they here anymore? So whatever marketing works best in your community, then stay consistent with it. And that way your customers and your future customers can keep you top of mind. That's really critical.
That's awesome. One thing that you two have both taught me is also to start with the end in mind. Instead of
Mhm.
just going wildly, whatever direction the wind blows us. Mark was always great, especially of just being like, okay, well, Jim, what do you need for your business to be healthy? Well, okay, so you need to pay this person so much. How much do you need to make? Instead of being afraid of our numbers or
Right.
listening to the one customer who said, you guys are expensive, asking all of your customers, what was your value and how likely are you to refer me? NPS scores and just checking in. That's how we determine what our market can bear. That's what we determine. I have so many markets that are like, oh, we can't sell a job at this price. I'm like, well, do you know the national average for that service is $200 higher? What's the difference? Every
Yeah.
town is people. My point is, don't just raise your prices. Don't just lower your prices. Don't run blindly. Sit down with your accountant, sit down with your franchise consultant, and sit down with the Mary Kays in your life and say, I need to get to here. What do I need to do to get there? And that's a great way to go about it. And I just thank both of you for always encouraging me to stay focused on what I need to do to keep my customers healthy and then my employees taken care of. And to your point earlier, as far as finding people, I have a local restoration company, Five Valleys Restoration. Matt, if you're listening, hats off to you. The emails we get aren't always sales emails. They're simple things like, did you know that the local community is doing a fundraiser? If any of you are interested, come on down. Hey, we're joining a kickball for kids. They just share what they're doing for their community and inviting people to join them. That's so much
Brilliant.
better than, oh, remember, you got to hire us if you have a disaster. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be sales, sales, sales. It should just be content. Here's something nice. Here's a gift. Here's something we're doing. Here's something you can do with us. Here's, come to our steak dinner. We'll make burgers. That's the stuff I think that builds just loyalty and long-term business value.
Not only that, but the younger homeowners today are very socially conscious,
Mhm.
and they want to help make their communities better, stronger, the community where they live, the community of the earth. It doesn't matter. So if you can, as a business owner, somehow join into that effort, and to your point, invite them to invite your customers to join you, or just call out, here's what we're doing, then that's going to make a huge impression on today's consumers. Absolutely.
And if you made a choice to choose a professional to work on your home, it's also nice subconsciously to know that your investment in that company went into the community and into their
Mhm.
employees and into their vans. That they look at that's important. And a lot of us as conscious consumers, we want to know we're supporting a company that supports the community and themselves. In point, sometimes the ones where there's not a sign, you don't know if they're insured. It's a little scary, and so this is real. And anyone listening to this podcast, I hope, is on the path to professionalism. Otherwise, welcome aboard. And I hope this is the beginning of your journey. But if you're the fly by night people that we're all worried about, that's not your competition. As Mary Kay
Right.
said earlier, your competition is the customer. What's making their heart feel good, what's making them feel good, and what's making them just stop shopping around you. What's it going to take for you to be their guy or their gal or their company? So
Yeah.
awesome, awesome, awesome. I appreciate
And
this a
and
lot.
I appreciate that that companies everywhere have signs now hiring up there. And I know that it's a challenge, but you said it earlier, there are plenty of great people out there. They're just working for somebody else right now. And studies have shown that over half of the workforce is disengaged, not actively disengaged necessarily, but disengaged. So if so they're looking, right? They're working, they show up every day, they earn their paycheck, but they don't earn new customer loyalty. So what you want to do is be the one out there that is the employer of choice in your community. And if
Yeah.
it's service, it doesn't matter what service you're providing. If you can train the skill, if it's not a licensed one, if you can train the skill, then just always be recruiting. Absolutely. But be the place where people are so excited to go to work and they feel so valued and appreciated, and they want to bring their friends in to work with you. They're out there. They're just with somebody else right now, and a lot of them are not happy.
That's so cool. Just a week or so ago, I was in the car with Will and Abel, who a lot of you know, and Will's our COO, and we were going through McDonald's. Don't tell my mom. And it was like 10:30 at night, and we were going through McDonald's, the only place open in Polson, Montana, and this guy just rocked our world, made us laugh at by taking the order, teased us a little bit, just connected. And then of course we bought more than we probably would have. By the time we got up to the
Right.
window, our card was out. We handed it to him. We're just like, hey, buddy, you're a great communicator. You connect. If you want a change of career, here you go. And his face was just kind of like, okay. And the thing is, what I'm saying is, how easy is it to write off? Oh, it's McDonald's, right? No, that's a young hustler who's actually working, who has some potential. What a great opportunity. And he hasn't called yet. Maybe he has. Maybe he went to voicemail. Now the ball's in his court. And the point is, if you're not ready to do that, then
Yeah.
let's work on that, because that's important. Your number one customer actually isn't the customer; it's your employees. That's the most important member. If you treat them well and they feel like they're treated well, your customers are handled. It's a fact. It's a loyalty.
Yeah.
It's a tribal approach. So appreciate that so much. And I hope all of you listening are hearing this and you're encouraged that, yeah, okay, I can find the people. Let's build our culture. Let's grow. Mary Kay, this has been just unbelievable. We're also excited. We're gonna have Mark on also, otherwise he'll be sad that he wasn't included. But I wanted to make sure that I started with you. I've just always really appreciated you. And for those of you interested in a franchise or joining a franchise, reach out to Neighborly 5-star. Take a look. These two are there's amazing people in that organization, and uh,
Oh,
and
truly. And the
so take a
culture,
look. Hmm.
yeah, the culture that you mentioned is unique to Neighborly, I truly believe. So neighborly.com is the
Hmm.
place to go.
Hmm.
And you can find out about jobs that are open across the platform. I think that the badge, the Neighborly badge on home services, really means that you're getting a premium quality service. So
Yeah.
look for the Neighborly badge.
Amazing. And for those of you, again, this is powered by BidClips. If you need help with your technology, if you need a call center to help you out, or a contact love center, we call it, I reach out to Service Station, go servicestation.com. And most importantly, whatever we can do to help you, just send it in the comments, message us. We will love to answer. I love to connect with our listeners. So I appreciate you, and I'm just so excited you're in retirement. Now you get to share all this knowledge you've gained, and hats off to you. What an amazing career, from 25 years old, walking into a TV station, the president of a giant franchise. What an amazing accomplishment. So thank you to both of you, and we will stay in touch.
Thanks, Jim. It's been fun.
What an amazing opportunity to talk with Mary Kay. I know I took a lot away from it. I always learn a lot from her, and I hope you all did as well. Stay tuned. Make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube if you're consuming it there. Thank you for our weekly listeners on Spotify and iTunes. And for the rest of you out there, have a great day today in trades. Brought to you by BidClips.